Check 1 2 1 2. How do I sound?
Sound good,
About the same as I was before.
I guess. Yeah.
Okay. Make me laugh.
I don't want to make you laugh.
It's your job to make me laugh so I can test myself.
Why's your pillow fort so shoddy?
That's not
Shoddy
that's
pillow
not
fort.
funny.
No, it's not. Shoddy construction is never funny, Solomon.
Then you
Say
can
it's
make
business.
you can make a pillow for it, huh? You can do it. God. Alrighty, welcome back to the Why Do I Talk to You podcast. I am still, for some reason, Saul Starsheep 4.
And I'm still Dave Gamer Dave Naple.
So at the time of us recording this, it's like getting close to the Thanksgiving holiday, getting close to when things get a little bit hectic for myself, and I'm sure for Dave as well, going closer to the Christmas holidays. So we wanted to sit back and we wanted to relax with a fond video game of nostalgia yore.
That probably only like half of that. No, none of you have ever heard of this game.
I don't know about
Probably.
that. It got some traction.
It was kind of a big deal in the video game scene, but it has definitely faded into obscurity as time has gone on.
Yeah, okay. It hasn't stood the test of time.
No.
If you're completely oblivious by now what it is, we're talking about Epic Mickey.
Yep.
Just to preface, this is not going to be a rant. We don't hate this game, but we do have some issues with it, which we want to talk about.
It's just like a thing. Like, I don't know. We don't like love this game. It's just a weird part of our history and kind of a video game history.
Yeah, because there was a lot of preamble before this as well.
It was actually kind of a big deal at the time. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Dave and I specifically wanted to talk about this because both of us have history with this, actually together as well. It was nice.
Yeah.
This game came out in the year 2010. Dave got it as a Christmas gift, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
If I remember
we
right.
were talking about it, of course, because like we said before, it was kind of making a big deal in the video game world.
Yeah, because Mickey was back.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was Disney video games. It's like any movie tie-in or like cartoon tie-in video game. Like, they weren't ever super great. Like, you saw them and you're like, yeah, that was probably bad. But there was a time back in like the 16 and 8-bit era where they were like actually pretty good. Like, you had DuckTales, which is still a classic. You had Capcom making lots of Disney video games like like Aladdin, which is a classic for both of us. God, there were like a couple different Mickey ones. One of them I grew up with, and I still can't remember what it was called. Made by Mickey, where you'd like change like the magic suit and like the rock climbing. Mickey's Magic Quest.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
And there was like a sequel to that, which was like fine, but then like mixed in, you had like the weird ones made by like Virgin Airlines mobile data, like whatever they were at the time.
The most infamous, I think, is Lion King.
Yeah, and that game even isn't like terrible, but it's also notoriously
Difficult.
weird. Like, yeah, difficult is really what it is, but there's a lot of just weirdness to it. And like the Jungle Book, other weird Virgin mobile airline games. So yeah, and then after that, it was kind of like you just kind of knew that movie tie-in games were going to be bad. And like Disney Interactive was a company that made video games for Disney, but like really you mostly knew them as the company that got their name slapped on Kingdom Hearts after Square Enix did all the hard work. So this was kind of at like the height of the Wii's popularity, where it's like the Wii's bringing mainstream people back into video games. Yeah, Disney's like, we want a part of that. And so Epic Mickey came into being.
So the other big side of this coin, too, of Epic Mickey is the homecoming of Oswald the Lucky Rabbit to the Disney property.
Yeah.
The very abridged version of this whole story goes is that Oswald the Lucky Rabbit was one of Disney's creations before Mickey Mouse.
It's pretty much credited as like his first creation.
Yeah.
Like his first successful one.
And back then he was under contract with which is now NBC Universal, and he made cartoons with that. And then, business is this, business is that, terms was changing and whatnot, and Disney was not a fan of that anymore. So basically, he just left the character with Universal.
Yeah, he
and
left, but there was some language in the contract where
they could still keep it.
They
yeah.
owned Oswald. Like he didn't
And-
have the rights to Oswald.
And
anymore.
they did try to keep making Oswald. They did keep making Oswald cartoons and other
Oh, did
iterations.
they?
Yeah, they did.
I kind of assumed he just became like Gino, where they had the rights to him and they just wouldn't give it
Oh
back.
no, they kept trying, and he was in comics and stuff. You should see some of these pictures. They're like completely not what he looks like nowadays. Like they made him look like more like an actual cartoon rabbit
Interesting.
than like Bizarro Mickey. You know?
Yeah.
So basically, after that, Walt Disney went off and he made his own company, and he made his new character Mickey Mouse, which is what we know of today.
Yeah.
Years and years and years later, Bob Iger, the still current CEO of Disney, or president of Disney rather, negotiates some terms with NBC.
Yeah. So Oswald now, I don't know if you're in California, you see him a lot at like DCA, like Disney California Adventure. Like he's sort of become part of the aesthetic there with like all the classic cartoons and stuff. But how long was it that they didn't have rights to him? Like 80 years? Something ridiculous like that?
Like probably close to 90 years. 'Cause
Yeah.
I think this is like the 1920s we're talking about.
Yeah, I think so. And it was actually for the pitch for this game where it was brought up to Bob Iger and they're like, we want to do something with Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. Like we want to make this game sort of centered around him. And he was like, I wish we could, but we can't because we don't have the rights. And so it was sort of snowballing after that he was like, yeah, let's get Oswald back in here.
So there were a lot of other terms in this negotiation, but the two major items in this trade was NBC Universal would give back Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, and among other things, Disney would be handing over the famous sportcaster Al Michaels.
What a weird transaction. I think the story goes he had just signed up with Disney too because ESPN had just got Monday Night Football or something like that from NBC.
Yeah.
And like almost as soon as they signed him, they're like, yeah, you're going to NBC now, buddy.
And from what I read, like at least the public comments he made of it was sort of like, yeah, okay. I mean, I get it. Like,
he's been a very good sport about it. He's like, not many people get traded for like Walt Disney's like original creation. Like, yeah, I'm pretty proud of that. That's at least what I've seen.
On the inside, he's just sort of like, are you kidding? I'm a human being.
Well, now he knows how all those sports players who he cast feel when they get traded.
So that, I mean, again, I'm sure there was a lot of other corporate, hoo-ha going down, but like those are the two major ticket items.
Yeah.
So as a result of that, Disney now can include Oswald in their game and in other properties as well.
Yeah.
And what came of that was not much, but hey, they.
I mean, like I said, he shows up a lot in like the old timey cartoon style. I see him at like DCA all the time. He's got hats with like Oswald's like repair service is what I see all the time.
Yeah,
like, he owns like a vehicle repair. I don't know, man.
Yeah. So all right,
Got to make a living.
So again, because of that and some other things that Dave mentioned, this game had not a lot, but it had a great amount of hype behind it. It was going to be the next biggest thing. And like Disney's like greatest game like ever and yada yada.
Yeah.
Dave got it that Christmas when it came out.
Yeah.
And I had a Wii at the time, but I wasn't. We were in college, and so I had no time for video games. And so I didn't really have much interest in getting it, or even if I had any time to play it. But Dave, like after seeing like what was contained in the game and kind of like what it had, was really like, this game seems like it was made for you, Saul. And I'm like, really? Like, I mean, I know it's Disney. I know it's Disney, but like it's really. He was all like, you should just like come over and just like play it sometime. I'm like, yeah, okay, fine, why not? And so I did one time at the house that he was living, and then we just played it, not from top to bottom because I don't think we had enough time for it.
No,
but that became like a weekly thing for us.
Yeah, it was like a ritual.
Yeah, that
I always sort of look forward to Saul coming over.
I'd come over to his place and we'd play Epic Mickey.
Yeah, it kind of started where like I was playing and you were watching, and like kind of slowly be like you'd take a little turn, and then eventually over time it's like you were playing more than me, and then it was just like I was just like, you know what? You just play this game, Saul, and I'll just watch.
That's definitely what it turned into.
You were having a good old time.
Yeah, I was having a good old time. And Dave is right. Also, the game was definitely meant more for me than for Dave.
Yeah.
But it was still a wonderful experience.
Yeah.
There was one experience in particular we'll get to eventually, but that I can never ever forget. But it was nice because I remember, like, because at that time Dave was still living on campus ish, and I was not. I was a commuter.
Yep.
So anytime I spent at the campus or like at somewhere else that wasn't spent doing homework or practicing or whatever like that was
Or in the music building.
yeah, kind of made me feel a little anxious because I'm like, I probably should be doing something else. Like, I probably should be. But you know what? I used to spend a lot of time at his place doing this. I spent a lot of time.
Yeah.
And I don't regret a single minute of it.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
So, why don't we get started?
Yeah. I mean, where do you want to, should we talk a little bit about like the game direction and like, because that was kind of a big deal behind the hype too, was the guy who wound up directing this game.
What's his name, Dave?
Wait, I got this wrong earlier. Warren Spector.
Hey,
is that right? Yeah,
you're actually right. Yeah.
So Warren Spector was he's a Western video game designer who before this was mostly known for games like Ultima, Wing Commander, and his biggest recent project was Deus Ex, which was really sort of touted by the community as like a very artistic game that sort of emphasized like choice and like created like a sci-fi world that was really interesting and emphasized the character and stuff like that. So I think he had just broken from whatever company he had been working with and had created his own studio, which I believe was called Junction Point. And so Disney came to him and like, we want you to make this game about Mickey and Oswald. And he was like, all right, I guess. So they bought out his company, made it a part of their video game development decision, Disney Interactive, and he was the one in charge of it. So that being said, he decided to, I don't know if this was something they already had in mind and they were like, Warren Spector's the guy to do it, or if he decided to add it after he was added to the project, but he just sort of decided to make this a game where your choices matter and there was sort of a morality system. So that sort of became the heart, or part of the heart of what this game was, along with being just a massive love letter to classic Disney fans.
Absolutely. When I go deeper into like my analysis of this game, what I like and what I don't like, I suppose, in the end, what you're gonna find is that I believe this game to be flawed.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a bad game. If anything, the needle is drifting towards the good side, honestly. But there are some flaws getting in its way that just really make me sort of second guess if ever I want to play it again. So first, let's talk about the aesthetic of it, because that's a huge part of it.
Yeah.
This game, the bulk of the gameplay takes place in what's known as Wasteland, which is a twisted steampunk iteration of Disneyland.
Would you call it like Tim Burton Disneyland?
I guess.
Is that what you said?
Yeah, I mean, anytime you see something sort of like, kooky or like anything weird like that, you're going to compare it to Tim Burton because he created it. But I do think it's more steampunk than Tim Burton, though.
Okay.
Tons of gears and stuff, tons of like machinery and stuff, so I think it drifts more in steampunk than it does Tim Burton,
Yeah.
But either way, it's a twisted version of Disneyland, and this is exactly why Dave said this game was more meant for me than for him, because I'm a gigantic Disneyland nerd.
Yeah, specifically at Disneyland.
I love Disney too, but like.
But he like loves Disneyland.
Yeah. Jeez, I could do like a 3-hour podcast episode solo on Disneyland.
I'm sure you could.
There's one spot in particular, because the main hub of Disneyland is called Main Street, and the main hub of Wasteland is called Mean Street.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Most of the area names are like plays on what the names of the lands in Disneyland are.
I didn't like the name Mean Street. It sounded too edgelordy, but everything else was nice. But anyways, there's one part in particular in Mean Street where there's an ice cream parlor, which basically is a shop.
Yeah.
Where you can get some stuff there.
Obviously directly paralleling the ice cream store on Main Street.
The Gibson Girl ice cream parlor.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know it was called that?
No,
Dave?
I didn't know it was called that. Why would I know it was called that anyway?
So you go into the game and you go in there, and there's a weird-ish looking jade elephant inside of there. And when I saw that, I was like, "Oh, look, it's the jade elephant!" And Dave was,
"Oh, okay."
He was genuine, like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "It's that jade elephant that's in the Gibson Girl ice cream parlor."
Okay.
And then so
you say so.
the next time Dave went to Gibson Girl, which was I don't know how much longer later. Didn't you
Yeah.
see it?
Yeah, I saw. I think it has since been removed,
It
which is kind of
has.
especially sad. But I do remember the next time I went, I looked for it and saw it, and I was like, oh, hell be darned, he's right. There's a weird jade elf in this ice cream store.
And that was probably the moment where Dave knew that I was a hopeless
hooked.
case when
Yeah.
it came for Disneyland too.
Yeah.
But also that okay, this game is meant for Saul,
Yeah,
because they
it's
have
not for me.
because they have these details in there, So many of in fact, all the worlds, well, except for maybe one of them, deal with or like kind of take their inspiration from Disneyland lands and some Disneyland rides.
Yeah.
The first place you go to is like a Fantasyland type area with like some broken carousel rides and
Like the cups. The
the broken teacups and like
Yeah.
a broken like Dumbo carousel ride. But the main part of that land is broken. It's a small world.
Yeah.
Which
Ends
also
up being the first
oh
boss.
man, that's creepy.
Yeah, it was really weird.
But there's a small world area. There's a haunted mansion area. There's arguably a Matterhorn area.
Yeah.
The last land you go into is called Dark Beauty's Castle, which is Sleeping Beauty's castle.
Yeah.
There's a Tomorrowland area, so it kind of covers all the bases
There's
here.
like what New Orleans Square.
Yeah.
Bog Easy.
That's where the haunted mansion one is
Yeah.
too. So that's the aesthetic. Let's talk about the gameplay now. What? Is there more?
Well, did you want to talk about the music at all? I mean, it's not music that you like remember and you're like singing to yourself, but it's all very atmospheric and it feels very Disney. Like the production quality of this game is obviously very high.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
Yeah.
It's not a soundtrack I'm going to be getting anytime soon, though.
No, but it all sounds nice. Like when we were listening to it, it was like, yeah, I remember this. This was nice. Like I didn't have anything bad to say about it. Did you?
No.
Yeah.
But I also don't really have anything good to say about it.
Well, I had some little good things to say, but I guess I said them already. So it was nice. Okay.
All right. All right. Music done and done. So the gameplay of this, the biggest mechanic of this is that, after you were sucked into I guess we didn't talk about how this happened, did we?
No, we didn't talk about the story at all.
We definitely should then.
Okay.
So the opening cutscene starts. You're Mickey in your bedroom, and then you find out that you can end up going through your mirror. And when you go through your mirror, you end up into who is now known as Yensid. If you don't know who that is the sorcerer from the Sorcerer's Apprentice Fantasia tune. And Yensid has since appeared in other video games and other iterations like
specifically Kingdom Hearts.
yeah.
I think that's where he got his name.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Because what is Yensid backwards, Dave?
Disney. Do you know they did that with another character in Kingdom Hearts?
Who?
There's like Master Iroquois, which is square backwards.
Come on.
Well, they can't all be gems.
Okay, so you enter through a mirror into Yensid's workshop or whatever, where he is painting and like constructing a world for Oswald.
Yeah.
With like his magic paintbrush, which like can create and can destroy depending on if you have ink or thinner. Again, Mickey sort of like sneaks on through. Yensid leaves his table for a second and then just like kind of goes up and it's like, I want to paint something. And he tries to paint like a self-portrait of himself and it goes bad. And he tries to thin it and it doesn't work.
It goes worse.
And he spills ink everywhere. And he spills thinner
It's
everywhere.
like a blob thing he made.
And
That's
a blob
like,
thing he makes. And so he runs away.
Yeah, like you do, I guess.
While there's like this big, dark, evil whirlpool like
He's like,
creating into
"Oops."
Wasteland.
I'm out of here.
And so years pass because the time that this starts, Mickey's like Steamboat Willie career hasn't started yet.
Yeah.
But like years and years are going by and like he's like this big popular icon. Eventually the blot finally is like, all right, now it's time.
I guess.
And goes back through the mirror and like sucks Mickey back into the world. And here you are.
There you are.
Into Wasteland.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it.
Well,
As far as the opening
the
story,
beginning,
yeah.
that's all you get.
So while you were being sucked in, you were able to grab the magic paintbrush, which is your primary weapon. There's a little bit of melee. You use it to like, break open chests or like, move like switches in your environment and to like briefly stun the enemies that are in there. But the main thing you get to do with the paintbrush is you can ink, which will actually like fill in platforms and walls and stuff inside of your environment, or you can thin, which will take them away.
Yeah.
Which is that again is the primary mechanic in here, to be able to like reveal new like open passageways and stuff by thinning, or to like create more pathways for yourself by inking in,
Yeah.
or just to feel nice and just like ink back in the whole area, make it look slightly nicer, That also goes towards the enemies as well. The some enemies that are there called like blotlings, you can either thin them away until they're dead, kind of like Dip from Roger Rabbit.
Yeah, it's like exactly what it's like,
It's
basically.
green too.
Yeah.
Or you can ink them up, which basically turns them good and onto your side, which means they become like your ally. They won't hurt you, and they'll like smile at you and like actually salute at you. They even grow Mickey ears. I don't know if you ever noticed that.
I actually didn't.
Yeah, it's almost like they're wearing a Mickey hat instead.
It's like you mind controlled them. Great.
Yeah, exactly. And then they'll also fight other enemies too that you haven't like inked up already also. So that choice also extends out into the boss fights as well, because you can't melee your bosses. No. Basically, you can choose to thin out your bosses, when the time is right, which will effectively kill them.
Yeah.
Completely take them away. Or you can ink them, which will
Make them nice.
Yeah. This is, again, like a moral decision, though, because, unlike, I don't know if I should say that.
What?
Unlike other games, nameless games, your decision won't give you like an unhappy ending or a happy ending. Like you won't turn evil if you choose to thin more than you ink.
You don't turn evil, but people like react differently towards you, don't they? Like very minimally. And it does change the ending depending on like the bosses you ink and stuff. Like it's just the cutscene, but it changes it. It's not like Mickey turns evil, but it's it's not like you join the dark side in the like Star Wars.
Well, that's what I mean.
RPG,
Like no matter what, you get a happy ending.
Well, Mickey
just
kind
not,
of
like-
does, but then like the wizard will like show you like look at the bad choices you made and how much sadder people are.
Yeah,
like I don't know if does Oswald get his girlfriend back? It's
Yes.
Does he?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No matter what.
I feel like there's some stuff though where like there's some endings where Oswald's still kind of bitter at you because you like kind of still mess things up a little bit.
You could be right, but I don't think so.
I think there's something. It makes a big deal out of like moral choice and like thin or bad, paint good.
Yeah, it's very clear that's what it's trying to go for too.
Yeah, and I've heard we watched like a little review of this sort of to like spark our minds on like what this game was like, and it mentioned there were a few times where like the moral decision wasn't immediately obvious in some of like the quests. Do you remember that?
I don't remember one off the top of my head, but I do remember like sometimes like, oh geez, I didn't mean to. Oh, I'm sorry. Which is what I think the reviewer meant when he said like it'll sometimes slip by like under your nose, like without even realizing it. Sometimes it's like, the quests were like, oh, I've lost my courage and these ghosts are scary. Can you find it? It's a medal. Where you just sort of like, okay, clearly I'm gonna, and then I think somebody wants to buy it from you, so it's clear what the moral ground is here, right?
Yeah,
So
okay.
a lot of them are like that.
Okay.
So anyways, also I believe like the more that you thin or the more that you ink, your ink capacity or your thin capacity rises.
Yeah, I think it's when you beat a boss. If
Yeah.
you beat a boss with ink, it'll give you like a power up to your ink. So it's like 3 little things on the side are what you start with for thinner and paint. And then when you beat a boss with paint, you get one more little container for paint. So
Yeah.
you have more capacity for that. So it sort of pushes you along whatever direction you already chose to go down, which is it's okay game design. It I don't know.
You
it
also
kind of
have
rewards you with what it thinks that you want to do, but it also sort of like you could make one decision and then sort of feel like you're forced down that path for the rest of the game, kind of.
Yeah.
Like optimally, that's what you do, I guess. So
You also have these guardians, these sort of like fairies that are like following you around, like the more that you game. And also they appear the more that you consistently use either ink or thinner. And I think as you progress, you can get more and more of them. But really what you can do with them is that you can like have them insta thin or insta ink an enemy nearby you, which when we talk about enemies right now, actually it gets really useful. So they're called blotlings, and much like any other game 3D platformer like this, the enemies can range from completely useless to difficult, but difficult in the way where it's just an inconvenience.
Yeah, where it just takes you a long time. And there's not just the blotlings, there's like the mechanical ones too. And I forget what they're called. Do you know the ones I'm talking about?
No.
There's like these mechanical ones where it's really obnoxious because, so like when I was playing, I remember I was doing like pretty much just ink. I was like, I'm gonna be the good guy, so I'm gonna ink everything. So like my ink capacity was high, but my thinner was like pathetically low. And so I was like, all right, whatever, it doesn't matter, I'm not gonna use it. But like there's these mechanical enemies where you can't paint them. You have to ink them, or you can't ink them, you have to thin them. And even when you thin them, it doesn't actually kill them. It just gets rid of like this outer coat, like this protective outer coat. And then you like spin attack them or like jump on them or something. And it's kind of obnoxious because like if you have the low thinner, it's like you can run out pretty easily trying to kill these things. And it's not like you just squirt them a little bit. Like they take some time, kind of like some of the major blotling enemies you run into. Like you're just spraying these things like crazy. You're just like, all right, stop. I just want it. And they like do things where they'll just keep chasing you. Or like the big blotlings have this like vacuum inhale where they like prevent you from moving forward. It's like, okay, I just leave me alone. Fighting you is not fun because combat isn't fun. It's just like you just spray them. You just squirt them until they stop. And it's like, okay, like, that's enough of this. I just like to move on to the platforming and exploration, which is actually fun, not just squirting some random blob things.
Yeah, that's an extremely fair assessment.
Yeah.
There are other ones that are like, there's one that's like a rolling ball that will like leave a thin trail behind him and stuff. And those are always just sort of hard to aim at.
Aiming, and it's all pretty much done by motion control. And for like to its credit, I don't remember hating the motion control elements of this game.
No.
I thought they were actually incorporated pretty well. This was a game that was released exclusively for Wii, which was an interesting decision. Originally, it was planned to be released for Xbox 360 and PS3, and then someone in development brought up the like sort of the opportunity to do it on Wii as well. And at first, like no, but then they're like, well, we could do it just for Wii, and there's actually some elements that kind of make sense for it, so that's what they did. And it was kind of a big deal because it's Wii-exclusive Disney, and there was like, do you remember the paintbrush, like limited edition
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Boy, I'm glad I didn't get those.
Oh, come on. But so, it's you like point and like you spray, and it's fine, but it's not fun. Like, I don't know. It works.
It works.
Yeah, but you don't want to be doing it for too long at the same enemy. It works really nice for painting in the world and for exploration, but for combat, it's just kind of like, all right, it works, and that's about it.
There's one enemy who's like a big like explosion, basically, or like all he does is that he explodes, and it's like a huge thing too, and it's sleeping, so you have to sort of like sneak up on it, and basically the only way you can do it is by throwing a guardian on him, which makes them very useful. To be honest, I use the guardians a lot because they made things convenient, and I forget like what the parameters were to get a guardian. I think like the more you inked, then one came by your side, and I think you had a capacity of like 3 of them or something.
I think so. Yeah.
So the guardians was a nice touch, I think.
Yeah. But combat in general is whatever. That was not the focus of this game. The focus of this game was, we haven't even talked about what you're supposed to be doing. So like you're looking for power cells, right?
Yeah.
That's your primary. Why don't you talk about that?
So basically, your primary means of transport, going from world to world from your main hub, is through these projector screens. These projector screens are based off of old Mickey cartoons like Steamboat Willie and other famous ones.
Through the mirror or through the looking glass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you go through them, it goes into a 2.5D sort of platforming challenge where there's no inking or thinning involved. It's just straight up platforming. Not very nice platforming, though. It's the kind of platforming where you step up to an obstacle, you wait for the obstacle to move, you go through. Next one, it's always
Yeah.
like that, like
It always forces you to wait for something to like. There's a lot of vertical ones, and they force you for something to like come down and pick you up. And like if you miss it, then your punishment is you just have to sit there and do
Yeah.
nothing. And if you fall down, you don't die, but your punishment is you got to do the whole thing again.
yeah, and a lot of times you fall down like several levels at a time
Yeah.
as well.
And there's like horizontal ones too, and they're not much better.
No. I loved the idea though, because I'm not the most versed in all of like the old Disney shorts, but of course I am with Steamboat Willie.
Sure.
The music is also very much based on the music you hear in the tunes.
All the aesthetics in them are very charming. Yeah.
So I liked it at first, but there's also no quick travel or teleport mechanic.
They
as
are
well.
the quick travel.
So no matter
unquote.
what, you have to go through them to get to these worlds, and a lot of times you have to do this a lot.
Yeah.
There was one particular fetch quest I had to do from Mean Street to Oztown, which is the Toontown of the world, where I get the quest from the detective in Mean Street. I go to Oztown.
That's like pretty early on in the game too, I think.
I go to Oztown. I go through I think Oztown's one is through the mirror.
I think it's one of the like through the looking glass
Yeah,
ones.
and so I go through it. I go to Oztown, and they're like, "Oh, can you find this for me? I think I left it in Mean Street." So you go back. You have to backtrack too. It's not a new thing. It's a backtrack. So you go through it, and then you're back in Mean Street, and you're like, "Here's the thing." So then you go back into the projector screen, and then you go back in there, and they're like, "Oh, thank you so much. Here's the thing." And then you have to report back to the detective in Mean Street. So you go through the projector screen again and then backtrack through it. And then finally you're done.
Yeah.
A lot of it was like this. I think that exact fetch quest happened when I was at your house doing it.
I think so,
I was just like, you gotta be kidding me. We're gonna do this again. And so that happens quite a bit. And like we said, to get to anywhere, you have to go through here, which means that not all of them are available to you at that given point in time. So the majority of your quests are to find power cells, which power up the projectors onto the projector screens.
And allow you to progress. Yeah. They're like the power stars or the jiggies or what have you.
It's one of those where like you're like, oh, but we need these power cells to turn on the projector. Try asking some of the townspeople for help. Maybe they have some power cells laying around.
It's very quest based. Like you talk to people and they give you like a quest to go do. It's not as much straight exploration as like a Banjo-Kazooie or like a task that like you get a hint, and like in Mario 64 it's like, and it is very much based on sort of these old school platformers. And when you're doing it as like a platformer and an exploration, it works fine. It works okay. Like I said, the paint and the thinner really open up the world to where you're paying attention to things that it's not always immediately obvious, the things you can thin out, like walls you can thin out to go into this building, or like paintings you can thin, and it's like, oh, there's like a small nook behind here where there's a collectible. So it is a collectathon, but it doesn't feel like a collectathon a lot of the time,
Yeah.
It has good forward movement. And the collectibles are fun to find, and the world is fun to like paint and thin, and like it's not like it's permanent, like you thin something and it's gone forever. You can paint it back up and make it look nice again, and things like that. So it's fun finding the things. So
And they do make it pretty easy, like, well, not easy, but they keep it organized as much as possible for you as well.
Yeah.
Like whenever a new quest starts, like a thing on the bottom will say like, quest added, find something like that. Which then gets added to like a book that you can go back to in the start menu and just be able to review them. So a lot of times you have like 5 quests open at the same time, but you're not really under any obligation to go through them in order. It's just sort of like, because you might have a quest start at the beginning of the level that you won't be able to fulfill until like the end of the level anyways.
yeah.
And meanwhile, you're going to pick up a lot of other quests at the same time as well. I think the thing that makes it different from like a Banjo-Kazooie collectathon is because there's not like You're not picking up bananas. You're not picking up coins or anything like
Well,
that.
you're picking up e-tickets.
Yeah, but that's also not like in a straight line path, which like or like shows you where you're supposed to go next and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing either. I'm just saying that that's what sort of makes Epic Mickey not feel like the common collectathon, even though everything else is there. A base amount of combat, and the MacGuffins you have to chase anyways, or the power cells. But
It feels kind of open world, right? Like, because everything is sort of connected in this way where you go from one thing to the other and you get into a world and you sort of just like run around. You have to get like acquainted with it. And like, yeah, there are quests that will change like things that aren't always there, but it feels very open. Like,
I think calling it open world is pushing it.
well, look, we'll probably talk about this later, but if you can call Mario Odyssey like quote unquote open world and look at all this freedom you have, like Epic Mickey does the same thing. Like you get to a world and you can sort of run around and explore it. And yeah, you talk to people and they give you quests, but it's like you can run around and like it's not like there's a straight line where you're going from place to place, right?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
You're right. Except when you're on the 2.5.
Well, that's why we don't like those.
Yeah, how about that? Maybe that's why we really don't like those, because it takes away your like full world like ability.
Well, and the platforming isn't fun.
No, it's not.
that makes a difference too.
Okay, so there's that. I'll move on to the biggest issue I have with this game, and it has nothing to do with the game itself.
His name is Cameron.
His name is Cameron. He is literally the worst.
He's just the worst.
When people say like, you're just the worst, right? No, Cameron is.
When that guy shows up to the party and he's like, who invited Cameron?
He's just the worst.
He's just the worst. You all know Cameron, right? Ugh.
Everybody knows Cameron.
Everybody knows Cameron.
Everybody knows Cameron.
If you've ever played a 3D platform video game, you know Cameron.
You know Cameron.
Yes.
Sometimes you've met a good Cameron.
Yeah. There's decent. Sometimes he has a good day.
There's some good. Yeah, he has a good day sometimes.
Mario Odyssey has a good Cameron.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
We're talking about the camera.
We're talking about the camera.
It was so bad that this inspired us to start yelling at him to the point where we had to give him a name, because yelling just a camera wasn't good enough. So
It was always just, Cameron.
As we were frantically pushing all the buttons to try to get him to face the way you want, we're just like, Cameron, can you just, God, I just need to look over there. Can you work with me? That's all I need. Cameron, just.
You know how like when you have a 3D platformer and it's like it gives you some ways to like fix the camera, or it's on its own like auto path.
They don't like always work.
That's what this is. You'll be in like a corner spot that you have to make this like really far jump. And what does Cameron do? Faces you.
Yeah, it's like, oh, hey, buddy. How you doing? It's like,
I'm fine. Can you turn around a bit? I need to see where I'm going.
What? But you're looking so good today, man.
Thanks, Cameron.
You've never looked better.
Cameron, I really need. I have a far jump I have to make. I really need to see where I'm going.
You can do it, buddy. I believe in you. I'll be watching you the whole time. Got my eye on you.
Cameron, do you want to help me though?
Yeah, I'll help.
Can you turn around a little bit?
No.
That's exactly what it's like.
Yeah.
And it won't just be like that instance. But again, everybody has had an encounter with a bad camera. Everybody has.
This is like the bane of like 3D platformers for the longest time.
Mm-hmm.
Like
from the start of Mario 64, they were really trying their best to make the camera not a hindrance to your gameplay.
Yeah.
And this one, I guess I don't know who play tested it and seemed to have no issues with the camera, but every other review and any other person that I know has played this game has complained about the camera. It's that bad in this game that people have to complain about it so much.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times where you will just fall into a big thing of thinner because the camera was facing you or just not adjusting
and then
quick
it
enough.
Kind of starts spinning around like crazy, and you're like, "Which way do I go back?"
One of those vacuum enemies will suck you in, but again, the camera's facing you, so you're running into obstacles. You can't help yourself. Oh man, that camera was the worst camera I've ever experienced in a 3D platforming game. And I've had some bad cameras, but none of them come close to how horribad Cameron is.
What other bad ones have you experienced, just out of curiosity? When you think of bad cameras, if you couldn't say Epic Mickey.
I might have to cut this because I'm really trying to think. You know, like Mario 64's was bad, but we kind of
it wasn't bad.
We kind of give it a pass.
No,
though.
it was fine compared to some of the other bad. I mean, look, I like Sonic Adventure 2, but have you played any 3D Sonic games?
I've played Generations.
Generations is okay. It was better.
I've not had my hands on Sonic 06.
Sonic Adventure is bad. Sonic Adventure 2 fixed it quite a bit, but Sonic Adventure's camera is bad. And Sonic dealing with camera angles has sort of been part of the meme of him in 3D. It's just been difficult. And there are really, outside of like Rareware and Nintendo, I feel like it's a very common thing for if it's just like sort of genero 3D platformer, it's like the camera is not good.
There's games I played where like the camera doesn't necessarily follow you that well.
Yeah.
Where like, and then to adjust it, you use like shoulder buttons or something, but they move like as slow as molasses, like on a cold day. And like,
Ukulele got a lot of camera complaints.
yeah,
I didn't feel like it was that bad.
Not really.
Yeah.
I mean, my test for bad cameras is definitely Epic Mickey.
Yeah,
if it's as bad as Epic
yeah.
Mickey, then oh boy, it's bad. And Mario 64's is not as bad as Epic Mickey's, so I say that. Yeah, that's, and sometimes I play games where like the camera will like stay on its perspective. So if you're walking away, but then you have to make a turn, the camera will like stay on that perspective, and you're just like, come freaking.
Yeah.
And then you just like. All right, we're good. And we keep moving. Oh, we got to turn again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why I love games that have like a quick recenter, you know?
Yeah. That like puts it right behind you, for example.
Yeah,
just like with a
those
push of a
ones.
button.
I remember the Kingdom Hearts 1 did not have this issue, or it did not have this feature. Although the camera wasn't all that terrible in Kingdom Hearts 1, but the 3D the DS recoded for why did I get that game?
I don't know.
Why do I even have that game?
Was it that bad?
No, but like my collection is certainly not grander because I have it.
Wasn't it like before you were getting married or something like that?
Well, yeah, but that's not why I got it.
I don't know. Stress buying.
I need to buy something.
You were desperate, yeah.
But anyways, they have a camera recenter feature on there, which made me do a lot more movements around, like in jumping in the air and fighting in the air and stuff, while being able to recenter the whole time through. Like it made it easier.
Yeah.
So basically, yeah, camera, Epic Mickey, horrible.
It's quite bad.
It got you know, when a camera forces you to die several times, like that's when a camera is bad. That's when it's actually invading the gameplay, you know? I remember, this is a personal anecdote from Dave and I. One of my favorite shows of all time as a kid was Beast Wars Transformers. And one of the main character, Optimus Primal's favorite phrases was, well, that's just Prime.
And it wasn't just him who said it, right?
Yeah, a lot of people would also say it in like jest or something, you know? And so, man, this game forced me to say that a lot.
A lot. That was the time when I got caught on it, and because you were just saying it all the time.
And
because it would just be something really obvious that was not obvious. And then you'd find it and you're just like, that is just Prime.
like the fetch quest that we were talking about earlier. That's all I could say for each of them. Just like, you know, you got to go to Oztown for this. Okay, fine. The quest is in Oztown. I do the projector screen, whatever. I go through it. Oh, I need to go back to Mean Street. Well, that's just Prime. And then I go, there it is. That means I have to go back to Oztown. Well, that's just Prime. And then I do that. I need to go back to Mean Street till they confirm. Well, that's just Prime. And Cameron forced me to say that a lot too.
Yeah.
Like I jump, oh, I missed the platform and now I'm in thinner because I couldn't see where I was going. Well, that's just Prime. And you know, it's fun to talk about the frustrations, but like I said, this game is not a bad game, but it did get both of us, and we're about to talk about that right now.
Yeah.
It did get both of us in a state of frustration that doesn't usually
Difficult
happen.
to replicate.
Yes. That's a great way of putting it. So,
Yeah.
in the level where you are in the Haunted Mansion area, which is called Lonesome Manor, if you're not familiar with Disneyland, which you probably are if you're a listener of this podcast, one of the 9 or 5 listeners we have,
9, 5, 2.
the opening scene of the Haunted Mansion is that you're inside a room with some paintings around and stuff, and then the room mysteriously stretches as well as the paintings do. And as the paintings stretch, they reveal like, more like sort of morbid scenes that are happening in this painting. Like there's like a woman like in a tutu. And then it stretches and you see she's on a tightrope, and then it stretches more and you see she's a tightrope over these hungry alligators. And there are other paintings like that as well. So there's a puzzle in Lonesome Manor where you're in this room where you see all the paintings, but they're segmented into 3 parts, and your job is to get them unscrambled.
Yeah.
Basically, once they're unscrambled, then you can move on to the next room.
Wasn't there like some platforming behind them or something?
Yeah, there
weird
was.
Too? Yeah.
So the way that you had to do them was you had to thin out the painting and like go inside of like the mechanism behind it and like turn on some gears which like swap their areas and like swap their positions and whatnot, and then like paint them back in and then rethin them to see like your progress and whatnot. And I was on this puzzle for like an hour straight.
We were both absolutely maddened by this puzzle.
Like Dave was probably like doing homework at the same time I was playing and stuff, but I'm like yelling the whole time. I'm like, I don't understand how to do this. I just don't.
I was like, all right, so I'll let a real gamer handle this. And I was like, all right, so you do this here, and then you got to do, but no, because there's something where like the button you push like move them at the same time. Mm-hmm. So like you had to like think way far ahead, and I was like, okay, so this one goes here, but that'll make that one go back here, but I need that over here. It was like a freaking Rubik's Cube. They were just like, I can't. And I was just about, we like thought we had it like several times. I was like, oh, no, you do this. And then it was like, it didn't work.
There was a point in time, and I think overall we spent 2 hours on this, an hour each.
It's something.
There was a point in time where Dave was like, you know what, this would be so much easier if we could just go outside the painting and just like move them outside with our melee move.
Yeah.
And I feel like both of us had tried that, but it didn't work. I feel like we both tried it at one point. We're just kind of like, no, yeah, it doesn't work. We have to do it on the inside. We're like,
yeah,
okay, fine. We were on this for like a full hour each. We were both just completely
out
done.
of our minds.
It was, we had just had a day of college. It was already like maybe 8:00 at night or something.
You probably had to go home.
I had to go home, but I'm like, no, because I need a save point so that we don't do this puzzle again. And then so finally Dave was like, I'm going to try it again. Just like moving the outside. He thinned out the part of the painting, went back inside the main room, painted it back in. He went up to it. He did the melee move.
It worked. I don't remember. To be fair, we might have just been idiots.
I'm sure we were.
But something about this room did not communicate that to us at all. I don't know if it was because the gear was like hidden or if it only worked when you painted something in so much. But something about that room did not communicate it to us clearly at all. And we were outside of our minds, pulling our hair out, trying to figure out this one stupid puzzle, only to find that it was probably the easiest thing in the world.
And so Dave finished it. After he figured out that you can actually move it, we were both speechless. Dave especially did not say a single word. I have never been afraid of Dave in my entire life except for that moment. I was earnestly afraid. And so he finished the quest. I slowly took the controller away from his hand. I found a save point. I saved twice. And I said this to him. I was like, Dave, look at me. I'm saving the game right now. I'm going to do it again just in case. And we're going to turn this off. I'm going to go home. We're going to turn this off. All the while he's like still staring at the TV and just not saying a word. And so I'm like, all right, Dave, I'm going to go home now. I'm going to leave this right here. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye. And he still just didn't say anything. He didn't even say bye, see me to the door, anything. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Yep.
All
Happens.
all thanks to Epic Mickey. That is like one of the biggest memories of like our friendship that that I have and that I hold in like fondness too. So
Yep.
that's the big reason why I wanted to talk about Epic Mickey today. What's interesting and what Dave noted the other day, or even before we started recording, is that for as much hullabaloo as this game had, and especially the big homecoming of Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, nobody really talks about this game anymore.
It's such a weird part of like gaming history. It was like Disney's. It was trying to be like Disney is getting into video games and it's gonna be big, which like seems like a really big. It felt like Disney was starting to treat video gaming like a serious medium. They had this game starring their flagship character that they traded Al freaking Michaels to NBC to get the character rights they needed for this story they were going to tell about this forgotten character, and they're going to bring him back in the fold, and you got moral choices, and they went out and got like a big name, like Western gaming developer to direct. It was like a big deal. They poured a lot of money into this, and it felt like if this game does well, we could have one of the premier like storytelling and big name like organizations in the world like really into video gaming. And this was a time in college when I was all about like video games as an artistic medium and what they were capable of. So like, yeah, like I want this. Like that would be cool. And I don't want to get too far outside Epic Mickey because maybe someday. Saul, can you imagine a world where we actually played Epic Mickey 2? It is a co-op game after all.
No thanks.
Come on.
No thanks.
Look, if you guys, in a world where we get the big time, I can see us playing Epic Mickey 2.
No thanks.
We'll do it.
Here's the good news, Dave.
Make that
Here's
a
the good
stretch
news,
goal
Dave.
on our Patreon.
Here's the good news, Dave. We're not big time.
Not yet. In any case, Epic Mickey. So it was like from the outset was planned to be a trilogy. This game, part of a trilogy, obviously. And so when this game did well, they got to work on a sequel, Epic Mickey 2: The Power of Two, which is not a very catchy title, but whatever. This was supposed to be.
Isn't that the name of the song in Pokemon 1, The Power of One?
Yeah. I think that's what they're going for, but whatever. So it was kind of, and so Epic Mickey did well. It got a sequel. I think it sold like 2 million copies or something like that, like something in excess of that. So like it did well, especially for just being on one system, albeit the Wii, which was like the system for this game and like the best-selling system of that generation. But Epic Mickey 2 came out and it was just kind of worse. It didn't fix the problems that Epic Mickey had, like the camera and like the platforming and like some of the other issues that were just kind of whatever. It was just kind of the same game, but not as good. And Oswald's mechanic, well, he was like your partner. That was where like the 2-player co-op came in. Like his mechanic was kind of weird and not as good as Mickey's. Like you didn't both get a paintbrush. Like he just got a button which affected certain enemies and like environments. It's like okay. It was like the Tails. You were like, oh, your little brother was on. You can be Tails, I guess. You don't do anything important. It's like, no. Even though I love Tails and like you used him to kill all the bosses because he was immortal. But anyway, and so that game launched on 4 consoles. It was Xbox 360, PS3, Wii, and Wii U, and it just got.
And there was a version for 3DS as well.
Was there really?
There was. It was like really, really like scaled down though.
Oh wow, I didn't actually know that.
Yeah, I just only remember because I played a demo of it and I was like, wow, this is garbage.
Well, there you go. But, this is where all of like Disney Interactive's like money and focus was going into. And so when that game came out, it bombed. Like they were expecting around 2 million sales. I think it sold like 600,000 or something like
Ouch.
that. They had poured like millions of dollars into the development, because like the production quality, I think we mentioned this in this, production quality in these games is good. Like it's orchestrated music and like all the visuals are nice, and
Yeah, for all its hardware limitations, it really looked nice on the Wii.
yeah, it looked good. It was fun to look at. Sure, it was like kind of dark and edgy, and you were talking about the issues you had. So
Well,
eventually,
yeah, okay, yeah.
eventually, I just gave this to Solomon because it was for him. Like this was a game for him, and we never finished it in college. So I wanted to give it to him to give him a chance to finish and to play through, and so I sent it to him when he was in South Carolina, and so. Well, you can tell the story.
Well, basically, at this point, I think I already finished it, though. Maybe not at Dave's house, but I did finish it, and was pretty whelmed by the ending. Not over or under, just whelmed. And gave it back to Dave because it belonged to him. And then for Christmas, my first year out in South Carolina, he sent it to me. I was like, that's really nice. Like, he's like, because this game was like really for you anyways. And I thought that was really sweet. After that, also my wife was like, "Oh, sweet! Now I get to play it now."
Because she is as big a Disneyland nerd,
if not more, if not more, because she's the one who helped me drink the Disneyland Kool-Aid like initially. So, anyways, she was excited because she could play it again or finally get to. But I don't know if it was my TV or whatever. But like that game gets dark color, like speaking in colors and brightness, like it gets really dark, and it's like, what are you supposed to do when like you can't even see your own character, or even if you can, you don't know if this is a pathway, is it death, what is this, right?
Yeah.
So eventually she was like, I can't play this game, and so she never did.
Yeah.
In fact, now she keeps on saying like, once I get more time, like I'd really like to play through Epic Mickey, and I'd be like, I'd love for you too if you can actually see it. And she's like, yeah,
you can find it. Lost my Christmas gift to you, Saul.
Oh, it's here somewhere, Dave. It's here somewhere.
Anyway, we got kind of distracted. So the production value in this game is high, and so when you have a sequel like Epic Mickey 2 sell like 600,000 copies, that's not going to cut the mustard. So eventually, that failure led not only to Warren Spector being canned, basically, and his studio at the time being closed down, but all of Disney Interactive being closed down. Disney Interactive no longer exists. Thanks in part, you can't say thanks to Epic Mickey because it did its part, but thanks to what it started. This was Disney going all in, and when it didn't work out in the sequel, it was all out. So Disney is not only no longer making Epic Mickey games, but they're just out of the video game business basically entirely. And that's kind of a shame. We've gotten some things like the DuckTales remaster, and Kingdom Hearts is still around, but you're not going to see that Disney Interactive logo on it anymore. It's straight Square's baby. So yeah,
I remember I had a CD-ROM animated storybook of Toy Story. One of those where like it just tells you the story, but like you can click on things and it does funny things, right? I loved that though, but like before there was this big hype hullabaloo logo for Disney Interactive.
Yeah.
So even just hearing that name Disney Interactive, I'm just like, yeah.
Yeah. I still remember seeing that logo on like the Lion King or like the old SNES games and stuff. It's a shame.
So Dave, are we recommending this game for anybody?
If you really like Disneyland, you going through Wasteland for those people who are like really attached to Disneyland is a treat, right? Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, because it seemed like they were thinking of me by like even adding in like the things like the Jade Elephant. I'm just sort of like, nobody would ever to think to put this in here because nobody ever goes to Gibson Girl to see the Jade Elephant.
Especially not now. It's got a lot of references to things that don't exist. It like the People Movers and not Tomorrowland, whatever, Tomorrow World.
Well, to be fair, the People Mover is in Disney World. It's not in Disneyland anymore.
But it used to be in Disneyland.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. It's got reference to things that just aren't in the park anymore.
Yeah,
like old school type stuff, and there's other things like that too. Even if it wasn't at the time, like the Gibson Girl Elephant. So.
But again, that's really only if you're as much a loser as me.
And a lot of the like side collectibles, like the e-tickets or like the film reels, will like get you access to like watching old school Mickey cartoons or like pin collecting, which is the thing in Disneyland.
It is.
And you get the little pins. I like the pins at Disneyland. I try to buy one every time I go, just like for memories. But it's got a lot of that little nostalgia stuff. So if you're a Disney fan, like a big Disney, specifically a Disneyland fan, really, this game has got a lot for you, and it's not a bad like collectathon adventure platformer, but it's not good enough that now 7 years after its release, I would recommend you to go on GameStop online and find it and dust off your Wii or whatever to play it.
Yeah.
It's all right.
It's all right. It's a flawed game. It's not the worst in the world.
You'll probably have some fun with it.
Yeah. I mean, when I think back on it, I can think of if I go back and, not play it, but watch a long play of it, I hear old sound effects and I hear like the music and stuff, and I remember some nice times.
And that's really nice. Like the cutscenes are all like this neat 2D animation. It's like reference to like old concept art for the Mickey cartoons. It's got a lot of heart in it, really. Like all the way through, it's got a lot of heart and a lot of emotion. So this game didn't kill Disney Interactive, but
No.
the things that the problems in this game that they didn't fix, kind of wound up doing it.
Yeah.
So
play it if you want, but beware.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what it is.
yeah, if you told me you played it, which I would be shocked if you told me you played it because of this, but if you told me you played it and you got like 2 worlds in, you're like, I never finished it and I never planned to. It's like, yeah, you probably got as much of an experience. Like if I was the completionist, I would give this game a rating of play it. You just pop it in, you play it a little bit, and then eventually you're not going to want to play it anymore.
Yeah.
But it's fine. You got to experience it, and there's things in there worth experiencing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say that's pretty fair.
Yeah.
Look at that again. We managed to do a whole hour on this.
Wow.
I really need to stop not believing that we can ever talk about anything for a full hour.
We're really good about yapping.
We're pretty long-winded, I think.
I guess so.
We are long in our wind.
Especially me.
Well,
Whatever. All right.
Right.
Take us home.
All right. Thank you very much for listening. If you've played this game before, please drop us a line. Let us know if you've experienced the same things, or, if this happened to inspire you to play the game. What is wrong with you? But, but,
all right, sure.
But sure, still just let us know about that. We'd love to hear it from you.
Yeah.
Special thanks once again, and as always, to Danny Barrett-Huvert for a wonderful artwork, and to the combined efforts of OC Remix, Rob KTA, and Expert Novice for the intro and outro music.
I remember this. Side note, this should be coming out the week before Thanksgiving. Going forward, we're definitely going to try to roll back our production schedule a little bit. Specifically for the holidays, we're not going to have an episode Thanksgiving week, and then for Christmas, we're not going to have one then. I think we're probably going to move to something where we schedule sort of one missed week per month, just to give us a little breathing room, and also to acknowledge any holidays that month or anything like that, to give us a little time off. So plan for at least one miss a month from here on out. Hopefully you're not too devastated by that, but somehow I think you'll make it. Other side note, this should actually be coming out right around the time when Epic Mickey first released, November 20th. So
That's cute.
Fun fact. Anyway.
Focusing on our lack of listeners sometimes hurts.
Whatever. We love you people who do listen, mostly because we know all y'all already. But if you listen and we don't know you, then we'd like to know you better. We don't know you half as well as we'd like. We like less than half you half as well as you deserve. All right.
References.
Getting out of here.
References.
Goodbye.
All right. We'll see you on the next one.
Take care.